Reason
man
must
sits
guide
alone
us
in his room.
beyond the physical
The
realm.
light from his phone's screen flickers
Yet,
across his
the
face.
physical world
He
is all
scrolls
we can
through
truly
endless
know.
videos, success stories, motivational speeches, people who look like they've figured everything out. Each one promises a way to find your purpose, to discover your passion, to unlock your potential. Yet with every scroll, the emptiness inside him grows heavier, because deep down, he feels like he's missing something everyone else seems to have. He whispers to himself, "What am I supposed to do with my life?" This is where most of us live, in the silent panic between what we thought life should be and the quiet, unsettling truth that we have no idea what we're doing. We were told that purpose is out there somewhere, waiting for us, hidden in the perfect career, the right relationship, or a grand revelation. But no one told us what to do when we can't find it. When the world goes quiet, and nothing feels meaningful anymore. We look for purpose like we're on a scavenger hunt. We chase new hobbies, change jobs, move cities, reinvent ourselves, thinking maybe the next thing will finally make us feel alive. But each time, after the initial rush fades, the same feeling returns. The dull ache. The question that won't leave us alone. What if I never find my purpose? That question terrifies us. Because it means maybe there's nothing waiting for us out there. Maybe there's no map. No destiny. No final answer that makes everything make sense. And so, instead of facing that uncertainty, we distract ourselves. We fill the silence with noise, productivity, entertainment, ambition, anything to avoid that unbearable stillness where our emptiness echoes the loudest. But what if we've been looking at purpose the wrong way? What if purpose isn't something to be found, but something to be built, carved out of the very struggles we've been trying to escape? Modern life teaches us to avoid pain at all costs. We label discomfort as failure. We medicate sadness, we glorify comfort, and we treat struggle as something to eliminate. But look closely and you'll see a paradox. The more we run from pain, the more meaningless life begins to feel. Because when nothing challenges us, nothing changes us. The truth is, we don't find meaning when life is easy. We create it when life breaks us open. When we lose something we thought we couldn't live without. When we're forced to start over from nothing. When everything familiar disappears and we have no choice but to rebuild. That's where the seed of purpose is planted, not in clarity, but in chaos. Maybe your life feels directionless right now. Maybe you wake up every morning wondering if this is all there is. But what if this confusion is not the absence of purpose? What if it's the beginning of it? What if purpose is not born from knowing, but from enduring? We live in an age of overstimulation. Every second, we're told who we should be, what we should want, and how we should feel. But purpose doesn't come from imitation. It comes from confrontation, from facing the parts of life we'd rather avoid. The heartbreak, the failure, the loss, the loneliness. These moments feel unbearable because they strip away everything false, leaving us with nothing but our raw, unfiltered selves. And that's where something sacred begins to take shape. There's a quiet kind of creation that happens in suffering, a slow, invisible transformation. Pain burns away illusions. It shows us what truly matters. It reveals who we are when everything comfortable is gone. It forces us to look within and build something real, something only we can create. Purpose is not a light we find at the end of the tunnel. It's the flame we build inside ourselves as we walk through the darkness. Every act of resilience, every moment you choose to keep going when life feels unbearable, that's you creating purpose. Maybe we've misunderstood what it means to find ourselves. We don't find ourselves in clarity. We find ourselves in the mess, in the exhaustion, in the days we want to give up but don't. We find ourselves not by running from pain, but by walking straight through it and letting it reshape us. Because suffering, as brutal as it feels, is the forge where meaning is born. It's the silent sculptor that shapes your soul into something deeper, stronger, more alive. You don't stumble upon purpose by accident. You create it, moment by moment, through every struggle that threatens to break you. You create it in the silence after loss, in the breath you take after heartbreak, in the decision to rise again when you could have stayed on the ground. Purpose isn't found. It's forged. And the fire that forges it is suffering. When you stop running from that truth, when you stop waiting for the world to hand you meaning, something shifts. You realize that the darkness wasn't there to destroy you. It was there to reveal you. You don't stumble upon meaning. You build it, in the dark, when no one is watching, through the moments you thought would destroy you. Suffering has always been humanity's oldest teacher, yet it's the one we spend our entire lives trying to silence. We label it as misfortune, as punishment, as a flaw in the system of life itself. But if we listen carefully, if we stop running long enough to truly feel, suffering begins to speak a strange, ancient language. It tells us that it is not here to end us, but to awaken us. Philosophers and psychologists have tried for centuries to understand this paradox. Friedrich Nietzsche once wrote, "To live is to suffer, to survive is to find some meaning in the suffering." He believed that the greatest act of creation is born not from comfort, but from the tension between pain and purpose. For Nietzsche, suffering was not the enemy of life, it was the fire that forged greatness. Without struggle, there can be no transformation, because comfort never demands growth. But in our modern pursuit of happiness, we've lost sight of this truth. We've built a culture around avoiding pain, a culture obsessed with quick fixes and surface-level satisfaction. Every ad, every piece of advice whispers the same thing: you deserve to feel good all the time. Yet the more we chase constant comfort, the more we drown in a quiet, invisible despair. Because when everything is easy, nothing feels significant. Viktor Frankl, the Austrian psychiatrist who survived the horrors of Nazi concentration camps, understood this better than anyone. He watched men stripped of everything, their freedom, their dignity, their families, and yet, some still found a reason to live. They didn't find purpose by escaping pain, they created it by facing pain with courage. Frankl wrote, "Those who have a will to live can bear almost any how. That why is not given to us. It is forged through confrontation, through standing before life's unbearable moments and asking not, why is this happening to me, but what can this become within me?" Purpose begins to emerge the moment we stop demanding that life be easy and instead decide to give meaning to what we've been given. Carl Jung took this even further. He said that within each of us lies a hidden shadow, the parts of our psyche we suppress, deny, and refuse to acknowledge. To become whole, Jung argued, we must integrate this shadow. That means facing the pain we've buried, the anger we hide, the fear we pretend doesn't exist. This process of integration, the individuation, is the birth of the true self. When we refuse to face suffering, we fragment ourselves. We live only as half-beings, polished on the surface, hollow underneath. But when we dare to look into our own darkness, we reclaim something sacred. Each piece of pain we accept becomes a brick in the foundation of our authenticity. Jung wrote, "No tree, it is said, can grow to heaven unless its roots reach down to hell." That is the essence of purpose. It grows not from light, but from the depth of our own darkness. Every meaningful life carries scars. Every person who has ever created something real, art, love, compassion, wisdom, did so through suffering. Suffering deepens the soul because it strips away illusion. It humbles us, reminding us of our smallness, yet simultaneously reveals the strength we never knew existed. It is in pain that we meet our most honest self, the self that cannot be distracted or deceived. We often believe that suffering is a sign something has gone wrong. But in reality, it's a signal that something real is trying to be born. Growth is never painless. The caterpillar doesn't become the butterfly by wishing for transformation. It literally dissolves within the cocoon. Its old form must die for something new to emerge. Human purpose follows the same law. The version of you that once felt safe must collapse for a truer, freer version to rise. This is the philosophical alchemy of life. Suffering becomes the raw material of creation. Each heartbreak becomes the soil for compassion. Each failure becomes a lesson in humility. Each loss carves space for gratitude. Pain refines the soul the way fire purifies gold, burning away everything false, until only what's real remains. But there's a choice involved. Suffering by itself doesn't guarantee growth. Left unexamined, pain hardens into bitterness. It turns people cold, cynical, resentful. The difference between destruction and transformation lies in one question. Will you run from your pain, or will you let it teach you? When we face suffering consciously, we begin to extract meaning from it. That's what Frankl meant by logotherapy, the idea that meaning itself is the ultimate medicine for the human soul. We don't heal by erasing pain, we heal by assigning it purpose. The person who has lost everything but still chooses to love, that's creation. The one who continues to strive after countless failures, that's transcendence. Pain without meaning crushes us. Pain with meaning builds us. Alan Watts once said that our attempts to control life are the root of our suffering, that the more we resist change, the more we hurt. But surrender is not weakness. It's the moment we stop demanding that life go our way and start learning from the way it unfolds. In surrender, we stop fighting the current and begin to move with it, and suddenly, life starts revealing patterns, lessons, beauty we couldn't see before. So, suffering is not the end of purpose. It's the beginning of awareness. The moment you stop running from pain, you begin to see that it was never meaningless. It was the universe's way of breaking open the shell of who you thought you were, so you could meet the person you were meant to become. The human spirit has always been defined not by its ability to avoid pain, but by its capacity to transform it. Every myth, every religion, every philosophy echoes this same truth in different words. The descent into darkness precedes rebirth. Prometheus steals fire only through punishment. Christ descends only after crucifixion. The hero enters the underworld not to escape it, but to return with wisdom. Your suffering, then, is not your curse. It's your initiation. When you can look at your pain and say, "This, too, has something to teach me," you step into your power. Because now, you're no longer a victim of life. You've become a participant in its creation. You start to see that every wound carries a message, every failure a lesson, every loss a seed of rebirth. And slowly, something shifts. The question, "Why me?" transforms into, "Why not me?" The pain that once felt unbearable becomes the very proof of your becoming. Suffering, seen through this lens, is not the absence of meaning, it is the birthplace of it. Your suffering is not meaningless. It's the crucible that shapes your soul into something capable of carrying meaning, something deeper than happiness, something more enduring than success, a life that is real. There comes a moment, quiet, invisible, and deeply personal, when all the philosophy in the world becomes real. When the theories of suffering and meaning are no longer ideas, but something you feel burning in your chest. It happens after the collapse, after the thing you thought defined you disappears. The relationship ends. The dream fails. The version of yourself you built so carefully begins to crumble. At first, there's nothing but silence. Not peaceful silence, but the kind that roars. A silence that exposes how fragile your identity truly was. You look around, and everything feels unfamiliar. The world that once made sense is now foreign, stripped of its colors. You wonder who you are without what you lost. And in that emptiness, something new begins to whisper. That whisper is not loud or clear. It's not motivation. It's not hope. It's something subtler, a quiet urge to begin again. To take one small step, even if you don't know where it leads. That is where purpose is born, not in certainty, but in motion. Every person who has ever found meaning in their life started from that same place, darkness. They didn't discover purpose as an external revelation. They created it, piece by piece, through action, through endurance, through small acts of defiance against despair. A sculptor doesn't find a statue hidden inside marble. They carve it, by removing everything that isn't the art. Likewise, suffering strips away everything that isn't truly you. It leaves behind only what's essential. And when all the illusions are gone, the need for approval, for perfection, for control, what remains is something raw and unbreakable. This is the process of psychological alchemy. Pain is the base material, heavy, ugly, shapeless. But when you confront it, when you hold it in your hands and ask what it's trying to teach you, something begins to shift. Slowly, the pain starts to change form. It turns into resilience, into understanding, into compassion, into art. Meaning is not found in the avoidance of pain, it's found in its transformation. Alan Watts spoke about this in the context of surrender. He said that when you stop resisting life, when you stop fighting the flow of experience, you begin to notice that everything, even the painful moments, has a rhythm. You start to see that life's chaos is not random, it's creative. That every loss is a kind of space being made for something new to emerge. But this transformation requires an act of faith, not in the religious sense, but in the human sense. Faith that your suffering is not in vain. Faith that if you stay with the pain long enough, it will reveal something sacred. Because the truth is, suffering is not something to get over. It's something to go through. It's not a wall to be climbed, but a passage to be walked. The only way out of pain is through its center. And on the other side, you don't find answers, you find depth. This is where many people turn back. The process of creation through suffering is not glamorous. It's slow, unsteady, often invisible. No one claps for you when you're learning to live again after loss. There's no soundtrack for the nights you cry alone, no applause for the mornings you drag yourself out of bed even when life feels meaningless. But those are the moments when you are quietly building something extraordinary. You're creating a new self. It's in these small, invisible acts of endurance that you begin to rediscover purpose. Not as a grand revelation, but as a quiet truth. Purpose is the decision to keep showing up, to write, to work, to love, even when you don't feel ready. It's the courage to move forward without the guarantee of reward. When Viktor Frankl wrote about life in the concentration camps, he said the only thing that separated those who gave up from those who survived was their relationship to meaning. Even in the darkest possible conditions, meaning could still be made in the way one chose to suffer. Some found purpose in comforting others, in maintaining dignity, in imagining a future beyond the camp. Their bodies were imprisoned, but their minds remained free because they refused to let their suffering be empty. That's what transformation looks like. It's not the end of pain, it's the awakening that happens within it. It's when you stop asking, "When will this end?" and start asking, "What can this teach me?" When you begin to act with that question in your heart, your pain stops defining you, it starts refining you. It stops being something you're trapped in, and becomes something you're shaping. You realize that you are not the victim of your suffering, you are its artist. This shift is quiet but seismic. The same experiences that once broke you now become the foundation for strength. The heartbreak that shattered you gives birth to empathy. The failure that humiliated you gives birth to humility. The darkness that scared you teaches you to create light. And it's not that the pain disappears. It never truly does. But it changes texture. It becomes part of you, not as a wound, but as wisdom. You stop wishing it away because you realize it's what made you real. It's what carved the lines of depth across your soul. This is the alchemy of meaning. The transformation from suffering to purpose doesn't happen in one epiphany. It happens in thousands of tiny choices, to keep going, to learn, to love again. Each time you choose creation over despair, you reclaim a piece of yourself. It's the choice to turn heartbreak into art, to turn loss into service, to turn fear into courage. In that sense, every act of creation is an act of healing. You heal not by forgetting what hurt you, but by transforming it into something that speaks of truth and beauty. Every time you turn your pain into something meaningful, a conversation, a gesture, a piece of writing, a change in the way you treat others, you are giving form to purpose. And slowly, almost imperceptibly, you start to notice something. The world that once felt hollow begins to feel alive again. The same silence that once terrified you now feels sacred. Because you understand now, purpose was never missing. It was growing quietly beneath your pain all along. You see, the wound was never meant to end you. It was meant to wake you. Because what you call suffering is not a punishment, it's an invitation. An invitation to become someone capable of carrying truth, love, and meaning through the storms of existence. The pain was never in the way. It was the way. And in that realization, everything changes. The darkness that once seemed hostile now feels like home, the womb of transformation. The fire that burned you is the same fire that forged you. That is when you finally understand. You don't need to find purpose. You've been creating it all along, in every breath, every struggle, every act of quiet perseverance. Suffering didn't steal your meaning. It gave it shape. When the dust finally settles, when the chaos, the questions, and the heartbreak begin to quiet, something subtle emerges. It's not the grand revelation you once imagined. It's not fireworks, applause, or divine clarity. It's something smaller, gentler, a steady heartbeat that whispers, "You're still here." That's where purpose truly lives, not in grand visions, but in ordinary persistence. In the act of showing up, again and again, with open eyes and a softened heart. Purpose was never supposed to be a destination. It was meant to be a way of living, a slow, deliberate creation that grows through how you face each moment. You begin to realize that meaning doesn't announce itself. It hides in quiet places, in the way you choose to treat people, in the patience you offer, in the courage to take one more step even when the road ahead is uncertain. Every choice, every breath, every small act of integrity becomes a stroke in the painting of your life. We often imagine purpose as something monumental, a mission, a legacy, a life-changing discovery. But real purpose is humble. It doesn't shout. It doesn't demand attention. It's in the daily rhythm of your becoming, in washing the dishes while thinking deeply, in writing when no one will read, in listening when no one is speaking to you. Purpose lives in the way you move through the world when no one is watching. Because the truth is, purpose isn't about what you do, it's about how you do it. It's the energy behind your actions, the consciousness you bring to them. The person who builds quietly, who creates with love even when unseen, that's someone who has understood the secret. Purpose doesn't need recognition, it needs sincerity. When you look back, you start to see the strange symmetry of it all. The pain that once felt meaningless now connects every part of your life like invisible threads. The heartbreak taught you empathy. The failure taught you humility. The loneliness taught you to listen. Every wound became a doorway, every ending a beginning. You realized that you weren't being broken, you were being built. That realization changes everything. You stop craving certainty. You stop waiting for the perfect path to reveal itself. Instead, you walk one imperfect step at a time, trusting that meaning will grow wherever you decide to plant it. You no longer ask, "What's my purpose?" You begin to ask, "What can I create with what I've been given?" And slowly, you start living as the creator rather than the seeker. You understand that life will continue to bring suffering, new challenges, losses, doubts. But now you meet them differently. You don't resist them as enemies. You welcome them as companions, as sculptors shaping the next version of who you're becoming. There's a quiet power in that, a peace that doesn't depend on circumstances. You no longer chase meaning, you express it. You no longer search for purpose, you embody it. Every moment becomes a canvas for creation. Every struggle becomes an invitation to love more deeply, to understand more clearly, to live more truthfully. You begin to see that the real purpose of life is not to avoid suffering, but to use it, to let it deepen your humanity, to let it refine your heart, to turn pain into presence and despair into devotion. And when you look in the mirror now, you don't see someone lost. You see someone alive, someone forged by experience, shaped by struggle, and made beautiful by resilience. The eyes that once looked outward in search now look inward with understanding. Because you finally know, you were never meant to find your purpose. You were meant to forge it, in the fire of your suffering, in the courage of your choices, in the quiet moments when no one sees your struggle but you keep creating anyway. Purpose is not waiting for you out there. It's already within you, born from every hardship you've survived, every truth you've embraced, every act of love you've offered even when it hurt. And so, you walk forward, not searching anymore but creating. With every breath, with every scar, with every new beginning, you are shaping the meaning of your life. You don't find purpose. You create it, through suffering, through endurance, through the quiet miracle of becoming real.